Do you remember the Reborn series with vet Mark Evans, where he built a whole selection of vehicles? It started back in 1999. He went through various car builds, rebuilds, even a plane, and in fact at one point a helicopter. So stick with us if you want to find out what happened to some of these vehicles. So the first program was A Car Is Born, and this was aired during 1999. And this was where Mark took on the build of a Pilgrim Sumo kit car based on a Ford Sierra, but ultimately it looked like a AC Cobra from the 1960s. Now, this car was first registered on the 25th of the 2nd, 2000, and it was registered as C297CFG. Now, the next time this picks up on my radar is with a change of keeper, and this is in 2004 in the August. And this, by the number of keepers it's had, was actually the second keeper selling it. So this means Mark or the production company had got rid of it sometime before that. Then it picks up with electronic MOTs. This first time it appeared in 2005, where it's showing 4,700 miles. So it's got a bit of tarmac under its wheels. And this steadily increases up until 2013, when it's got just on 10,000 miles on the clock. Now, the reason I mentioned that one is that in January 14 it changed hands. So as you can see, my car check, another change of keeper, and then again the MOT show a gradual increase in mileage, but I've got to rely on the 2021 MOT, which shows 10,975. So yeah, it's done less than 1,000 miles in the time of the current owner. And the problem was that the next MOT in 2022, it showed 0 miles on the clock. Don't know why. That MOT it expired in 2023, and it doesn't appear to have been on the road since, and is still currently recorded as SORN. So that one's parked up at the moment. So the next series up was A Plane Is Born, and this first aired in 2000, and it followed Mark building a Europa kit plane. Now, there were some inconsistencies apparently with this plane. I've had to dive deep into the plane forums to understand exactly what was going on. But apparently the plane that Mark was building was using a Rotax 912S engine, and you can tell that because it had green rocker covers on. And the plane, when it appeared from the paint shop, had a Rotax 914 engine fitted. And you tell that because that had the red rocker covers. I'm outside my area of comfort here. And then you saw a plane at the end of the series being flown. That wasn't Mark's plane, that was a stand-in. Now, apparently this plane was spotted at Europa in 2003, still unfinished. And that suggests maybe this plane was actually owned by Europa rather than the production company. I've got no confirmation either way. But reports say that this plane was registered as GOIZI, and apparently Europa Management International Limited went bust in 2004. Now, this plane apparently was given to one of the creditors as part of a settlement, presumably against money they were owed. And then sometime between there and 2006, it was re-registered as GKIRB. And there are a number of pictures of this plane on the internet, including this one in 2022 by John Yates, showing it was still about. And to confirm that, I found a website called G-Info, which is a bit like DVLA for aircraft. And it does list the plane, and it shows it's still registered. So I assume it's up in the air and still being enjoyed. So next up was A Car Is Reborn, and this first aired in 2001, and this followed Mark as he rebuilt a Jaguar E-Type, registration number HPJ969C. Now, the first time I come across this car is when it has a change of keeper in August 2002. Now, with 2001 airing, probably this is around about the time either Mark or the production company, whoever owned it, would have sold the car on. And then it has its first electronic MOT in 2006, where it's done 78,800 miles. Now, the next change of keeper is 3 years after that, in 2009, where, looking at the MOT records, it was only done 79,000 miles. So it's only done 200 miles since that first electronic MOT. Now, after this and this is the owner that's still got the car, it does seem like the car has got used a bit more. In May 2014, there were pictures posted on the xkedata.com website, and it shows the car looking like it's in a pub car park or something similar, and it's looking still absolutely stunning. Well, it doesn't look like it's done a lot of miles. And then in the comments below that pictures on the XKE data site, there are some great comments giving a bit of an update. Somebody else saw it again in June 2014. Apparently it was on the Great Northern Run, and it says it's not the running, but the car run. And it says it was residing somewhere in Lancashire. And then following that one, there's another comment that says in May 2017, it was spotted at a pub meet in Wrightington. I hope I pronounced that right. But interestingly, it mentioned that it looked like the interior had been retrimmed, because instead of the black that Mark put in it, it had been retrimmed into a biscuit colour. And the last time I've got any record of that car is it was in some pictures in the Lancashire Automobile Club Coast to Coast run, which is about a 170-mile run, funny enough, coast to coast, and that was in 2019. So the car has been getting some use, and it's great to see it's still got valid road tax, so it's on the road today. So the next series we'll look at is A Racing Car is Born, and this first aired in 2002, and it was Mark building a Westfield 1800, and if you remember the program, he started off building it up into road spec and gradually evolved it into a race car and entered the race in France. Now this car was registered as V002EYV, and this was first registered on the 23rd of May 2002. Now, it had its first electronic MOT in May 2006, where it was showing it had done 29,000 miles. And I don't believe that. And the reason I don't is the following year it got corrected, showing it had done just over 3,000 miles. So it looks like someone had added an extra digit into that 2006 mileage. Now, this car did absolutely minimum mileage over the next few years. Up until 2010, it done a total of 25 miles. So by the sounds of it, that was probably MOT station and back. But after that, it picked up, and up to about 2017, from there, it was doing sort of anything between 500,000 miles a year. This carried on until 2017, and that's when the car appears to have come off the road for a bit. There was a change of keeper in May 2022, had an MOT around about the same time, where it was showing 9,465 miles, so it's done about 800 since that 2017 MOT. It then had another change of keeper in December 2022, and then when the MOT expired in May 23, it just appears to have come off the road. It's marked as Sawn, so it appears that one is having a little bit of a rest, a bit like the Cobra. A Chopper is Born was also aired in 2002, and this was where Mark took on the build of a Rotorway 162F helicopter, and this had the registration number G-CBJV. Now, this helicopter was built in association with Southern Helicopters, and how do I know that? Well, when the day job involved that kind of thing, one of the owners from Southern Helicopter was also involved with motorcycle racing, and I met him a couple of times through that, and we did discuss Mark Evans coming in and building this helicopter. Now, this helicopter apparently appeared for sale at an aero fair at Northfield Airfield in 2003, where it was up for £50,000. I don't know if that's a good, bad or indifferent price for one of those. But then in 2004, it had a little bit of an adventure. As this accident report tells us, basically the pilot was coming in to land, saw on the concrete pad where he was supposed to land lots of branches, so thought it was safer to go somewhere else. Landed on some grass, and apparently one of the skids sunk into the ground as he was shutting everything down, and it keeled over onto one side. Now, there was only very minor injuries apparently, and the aircraft, or helicopter I should say, was repaired. And there are a number of pictures of the chopper on the internet over the years, but going back to G-Info, there is the listing for it, but it shows on the 7th of April 2025 it was deregistered by the CAA, Civil Aviation Authority, so I assume that one is grounded at the moment. Guess it's a bit like a car being on Sawn. A 4x4 is Born was first aired in 2004, and this is where Mark took a Range Rover chassis, so it was a 100-inch wheelbase, and built a Land Rover onto it with some extreme off-roading bits and pieces, winches, massive suspension, etc, etc. And this one's beaten me. I can't find a registration number for this at all. It's appeared, I've seen it on this Carol Nash website article a few years later. I think it was a show, I think it might have been Brighton, where it was being demonstrated, or it's great sort of elongation of suspension. But wherever I look, I can't find a registration number for this. My guess is Mark may well have built this for himself and it's his private toy. Who knows? If you know, please do let us know in the comments. So the last one we're going to look at is An MG is Born, and this was aired in the latter part of 2005, and it's where Mark rescued an MGB Roadster 1974 from a chicken shed and basically built it up from its horrible mustard colour into a beautiful silver example. Now this had the registration number of VYD156M, and I first come across this with my car check. There's a change of keeper in January 2005 who then sold it in May 2006. And what I found out was supporting evidence is this was actually the period where Mark Evans, or the production company, owned the car. Because during this period we had the colour change, which was done in July 2005, and also Mark mentioned that he was going to be exhibiting it at the NEC in the November of 2005, where he's going to be putting it up for sale. Now he did sell it in the May of 2006. It was put in for an MOT in the August of 06, and then in for another one about just over 18 months later in the March of 08. And then if we look on my car check, yeah, that one's been exported. May 2008 it left the country. Don't know where to. Possibility is Southern Ireland, but it could have been anywhere. So that one has left the building. I hope you enjoyed having a look through those cars, planes and helicopters of Mark Evans, and if you have, please do consider giving us a subscription. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. He rebuilt a yeah, okay, we got a a car is Reborn, and this first bit like DVLA for aircraft. Let's try with the glasses on properly.